Welcome to West Yorkshire Sport. This is our preview looking ahead to Huddersfield Town, who host Derby County this weekend. On BBC Radio Leeds, Paul Ogden, our town commentator, here with me. Would you expect many changes after a good win over MK Dons midweek?
Not really. Chris Powell has been reluctant, apparently, to change his team throughout the period where they've been trying to get their first clean sheet. And then again, against MK Dons, he only tweaked it. There were lots of good things about that performance, Catherine. I would say leave and be, but with that rolling instruction for Ishmael Miller and others to keep contributing as much as they possibly can, because Derby, if they're on form, are a particularly difficult opponent to tackle. So I wouldn't disrupt things too much, but standards need to be kept very high.
Derby are a very difficult team. I think they're unbeaten in 7 now. They've won 5 and drawn 2 of their last 7 games. You mentioned Miller. He's come in for quite a lot of flack, but interestingly, Chris Powell has leapt to his defence this week and praised him for his overall contribution, even if he's still to get his first goal of the season.
Every team we play, after the game, out of any of our players, are more worried about Ishmael.
That's interesting, because he's come in for a bit of flack from some of the supporters
That's
recently.
Fine. That's fine. No, that doesn't make me change. If I feel he's doing a role for the team, fine. That's why I'm here. He's done brilliant for us. You can't dismiss what he done for us against Charlton, Bolton, Forest to an extent. Ipswich, he got in positions where, maybe he should have put them away. Again, the other day, he takes such a buffeting from strikers. It actually releases and gives us and people like Naki and Sean and Harry more chance to get in dangerous areas.
And that also explains to us as observers why Chris Powell has persisted with Ishmael Miller throughout a period of the season where he has spent a lot of time on the deck. He has been the subject of some vicious message board and social media debate. But these days, Catherine, what player isn't? I mean, this is how we watch football these days. And I think the players themselves take it as an occupational hazard that even if they have a good game, their mistakes and fluffs might even be just as much accentuated. And I'm not really surprised that Chris Powell has come out in defence of him, because we know deep down he must be seeing things at Canalside on the training ground that are being appreciated by his teammates. And actually, having been invited by Chris Powell to re-scrutinise the goal action and some of the key moments from the game against MK Dons on Tuesday, you do see Ishmael Miller in the background tiring opposing defenders out, drawing them out of position. It might look a bit ungainly sometimes, but there are reasons for him to be picked again. So I don't think it's time yet for Flo Bojaj or anybody to be thrown in, especially against Derby. Ishmael Miller will be asked to do a similar job, I've no doubt.
So despite having a good cameo role at the end of it, making his debut, Flo Bojaj, and he was so delighted when he was talking to you to have made that debut, you don't expect him to take a bigger role on Saturday?
Only if need be. We don't know what's happened on the training ground. James Vaughan is suspended anyway, so Chris Powell is a bit thin in his options. We hope Naki Wells has had a couple of good nights' kip, because he had an at times torrid evening against MK Dons. Not much went his way until he actually was presented with that beautiful pass by a defender, and it still, to his credit, took his chance well. I think, I'm afraid to say, that the focus will be on Huddersfield Town's defensive job against the fluidity of Derby. Blackburn Rovers stifled it, mind you, on Wednesday night. And, I'm not as pessimistic for Town's chances against Derby as I might have been 3 weeks ago.
The defence has been doing really well. 2 clean sheets now, which has particularly pleased Chris Powell, as you would imagine. But you do expect there to be goals. I'm going to put the mockers on this now, so I apologise, Huddersfield Town fans. There were 13 goals between these two teams last season, which inevitably means it's going to be 0-0 now, doesn't it?
Well, there would be a strange beauty in 0-0 against Derby County, although, we're going to run out of patience with a 0-0 if they keep coming. You don't fluke a 0-0 against MK Dons. If you manage one against Derby, that's a major achievement with the kind of firepower they've got. Therefore, compliments to Blackburn Rovers, who must have done some good things at Ewood Park on Wednesday night. Derby bracket themselves in terms of their spending alone as serious promotion chasers. Otherwise, they wouldn't have plucked Jacob Butterfield from Huddersfield Town for £5 million. But there must be something wrong with them as well. With respect to Blackburn, even we scored against Blackburn, and Derby didn't. When you put Chris Martin, Russell, Butterfield, Thorne back in business again, and all the other Paul Ince's boy Tom, You put all them in one team and they don't score at Ewood Park. He needs to do some work there, Paul Clement, to satisfy the major demands of Derby County fans, and good luck to him. Huddersfield Town will feel so much better about what they're doing defensively since the last 2 games, Ipswich, MK Dons. They really earned those clean sheets. I will put my head down tonight, still privately thinking if we can keep Derby down to 2 goals, I'll be happy. It's whether we can match them up front. But I'm really looking forward to the game against Derby now, whereas I would have been petrified by it a month ago.
It's going to be a tasty one. It'll be interesting to see what reception Jacob Butterfield gets as well. I'm sure he'll be welcomed back by most of the Huddersfield Town fans, I would have thought. Also important to get a result. It's a real tough run of games coming up for Town now, isn't it? Derby at home, Burnley away, Reading away, and then the small matter of the Derby match against Leeds. It would be great if they were going into that run of games with a good win against a really good team.
Yeah. I, selfishly, Catherine, need to see Town against some good teams now. Again, I don't mean to diss the MK Dons or Ipswiches of this world, but what we're really yearning for now is a consistent string of Huddersfield Town performances against some of the so-called talent in the division. You've just pulled off a string of names there which, count themselves amongst the promotion chasers, and rightly so. It's okay against a struggling Ipswich side, I thought, to come up with a 0-0, and an MK Dons side which, bless them, looked distinctly like the League One version of MK Dons, with even less penetration up front on Tuesday night. But for those 2 defensive mistakes and those gifts, it would have been another 0-0, I'll tell you now. For Huddersfield Town to prepare themselves now for Derby and the teams you've mentioned is a delicious prospect, because now we're wondering how far Town can go off the back of this little foundation of 2 clean sheets, something that looked impossible, unthinkable a couple of weeks ago. But bring on some better opposition, because we will feel so good if we get a point or even more against Derby this weekend.
We shall see. If you can't make it to the John Smith Stadium, or even if you can and you take your radio with us, make sure you've got BBC Radio Leeds on West Yorkshire Sport. All the action with Oggy, with Kieran, with Nick Hatton from 2 o'clock, 774am, DAB Digital Radio, the place to be. Get involved with your contributions to the debate as well. 81333 for text messages. Start them with the letters WYS, or tweet us at WYS Daily. See you at 2 o'clock, West Yorkshire Sport, BBC Radio Leeds.